Hello everyone. Today I want to introduce you to Hadron, a Linux distribution by the Kairos team. Hadron is an immutable system, and we're going to learn how to deploy a Kubernetes cluster on top of Hadron today. I have in the background my documentation running. We're going to be basing everything we do on that. And let's get started. Well, first of all, you're going to need VirtualBox or some other virtualization system. I am using VirtualBox just because it's quite common. It's can be used on different operating systems. And we're also going to need to download an ISO. For that, you just need to download the link here from the quickstart. That will give you the same ISO that I am using here or a newer one. And then in terms of how much space we need, the bare minimum. So what we're going to use here is 8 gigs for disk and 2 gigs of RAM. But of course, if you add more, then you can also install some other software on it. So let's get started, and using VirtualBox, we can create the new VM. Let's call this VM Hadron, and we're going to add the image that I downloaded. It is the B361 beta 2. That's the first one that includes Hadron, so it's not stable yet. Expect bugs and quirks to still be there, but we plan to have this stable as soon as possible. And in terms of OS, it's a Linux operating system. You can say other Linux. Then we have the RAM, as we said. Let's put 2 gigs on it. 1 CPU is fine, and we're not going to use EFI. We're going to use the traditional BIOS, and 8 gigabytes for the disk. That is good. Then we go into the settings. Once we have created the VM, we don't start it. Instead, we go to the settings, and we're going to make sure that the hard disk is the first in the booting order, and then our optical drive or our CD. And finally, the network needs to be bridged so that we can SSH in. It's a little bit easier, in my opinion, to interact with the system that way than from the VirtualBox windows. So now we can start the machine, and I'm going to scale it so it's a little bit more readable. And you have different options of installing Kairos, manually, interactive, and other boot options here, but we're gonna go with the default. The default gives you web installer, and that's basically what we want to do. Now we're also gonna need a configuration. We use what we call cloud configs, which is basically like cloud init. There we're going to specify, for example, that we want one user, in this case Kairos. Oh, I have a typo. We're going to fix that. One user called Kairos with a password, and it's going to be part of the admin group. This is important. You need to set at least one user like this, otherwise you cannot SSH into the system. Obviously, if you don't need users, that's a different case, but this is for our quick start. And we're also going to enable our K3s Kubernetes. You can also download an image with K0s. You can see that in the GitHub releases. Kairos, and then if you go to releases, it's going to be somewhere here. We have a lot of assets because Kairos can be installed on top of, well, Kairos systems are based on Alpine, on Debian, Fedora, and all of this. But today we're talking about Hadron exclusively. All right. If you see, this system has already started. It has a QR code because Kairos can also be configured using a QR code, but we're going to use this IP, which is 6864. So let's go to it. HTTP 192.168 and then 6864 8080. So now we see the web installer. We basically copy this here minus the typo, be correctly. Okay. So let's fix this, Kairos. And we're going to say that it finds the device automatically, so we can leave it as auto, that the device is going to be the disk where it's going to install. And we're gonna request that it reboots after installation, not that it powers off. So we do the installation. In the meantime, I will explain what's happening here. Basically, Kairos has active and a passive partition. So it takes the immutable system that already exists in the live CD, it creates the different partitions, and then when we boot, we're gonna boot normally in the active one. If whenever we do an upgrade later on, something goes bad, you can see here already on the right, the top one, the Kairos, that's the active one. Or when we refer to active, this is the one we mean. When we say passive, is this one the fallback? And it's fallback because if something goes wrong with the upgrade, then you can fall back into your previous running system. And it also has a recovery partition for to do some debugging. And as we can, I'm gonna hit enter for the active one so that the system continues booting. In some systems, if you're not using VirtualBox, you might need to eject the CD, but in this case, we don't need to. And eventually we're gonna SSH into the system, like I said. We wanna do that through the console. SSH Kairos. Password Kairos as we set it up, and it says welcome to Kairos. If we go and do an cat of OS release, we can see that we're using Hadron Linux effectively in its version 0.0.1. This is also in beta, it's not stable yet, so if you have any feedback, please let us know. Then we have the Kairos release, which shows that we have installed the Hadron version, that it comes with K3s, and that is based on this beta version of Kairos. Now, Kairos is stable, but this particular version that comes with Hadron is in beta at the moment. All right, as we can see, the system is running properly. What else do we have here? Oh yes, let's have a look at kubectl nodes. And we can see that it is running as a single node cluster. And we could also check, for example, the kube system pods to see what is running. You can see that we have core DNS, whatever comes by default on K3s, right? Finally, you could also check, for example, the memory that is being used. We install with 2 gigs and we have approximately 1 gig running in the system at the moment. That's it. Now you have a Kubernetes cluster running in a matter of minutes based on an immutable system. So you got this extra layer of security that you previously might not have with other operating systems. In the next video, I'm gonna teach you how to extend the system using Docker files.